And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lost Sheep podcast. I'm Nazario Pengallo, and I'm here with,
Cole Bissett.
and this is episode number 94. And ladies and gentlemen, this episode will be releasing, hopefully you're watching it on this day, July 5th, Sunday, July 5th, the day after the 4th of July. So this is a 4th of July special. Some would say, the greatest 4th of July. Well, no, of course not. This is not the greatest 4th of July. This is the second greatest. The greatest was 250 years ago when the Declaration of Independence was officially signed in July 4th, 1776. That was the greatest 4th of July. So can't say we're greater than that, Cole. But hey, 250th anniversary of that. How we feeling over there, partner?
Feeling pretty good. Ready to celebrate. Ready to wear my red, white, and blue tomorrow. Probably find some local fireworks. You know, the whole
We're recording
pizzazz,
on
the whole
Friday,
jazz.
July 3rd, everybody. We're
Yes.
recording July 3rd. So we'll be celebrating
Yes.
tomorrow, July 4th.
So Nazario and I are kind of pumped. We're kind of like getting into the patriotic spirit. Plus, the USA is making a generational run in the World Cup right now. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that exciting?
So we're gonna put our predictions right now that we are gonna beat Belgium on Monday night. So you may be watching this before or after that game, but you heard our predictions here first on Friday, July 3rd. The United States will knock off Belgium in the round of 16 to advance to the quarterfinals of the World Cup.
Yes, and it's not going to be one of those things like 12 years ago. So, and for those of you who watched the World Cup 12 years ago, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is going to be this is a different World Cup team. We've got resilience, we've got passion, we have patriotism, we've got it all. We're going to win.
And we got a great coach in
stuff.
Mauricio Pochettino.
We have a decent coach in Mauricio Pochettino. Nazario and I have a little running joke since I'm not a big fan of our coach, but we'll see. We'll see. He's working some magic, so I can't hate him, but we'll see.
If
We'll see.
he
How's your
wins
week been,
this
brother?
game, does he get your? Well, it's been great. Wednesday night got me so pumped. Went to watch the U.S. game at a watch party. Had a bunch of. It was actually my dad's birthday, and I was able to convince him to go, even though he's not a soccer fan. And there was this huge crowd of people. We were just watching the game, and the weather has been extremely hot. There's been a crazy heat. I think it's. I don't know if Cole, if you're just experiencing a normal Alabama summer, or if you're like experiencing like the crazy heat wave, but it's like national, or not national, but state warnings the whole time, like do not really go outside much. But this was an outside watch party. The game was until 8 p.m. and it cooled down so wonderfully to stand outside or sit outside and watch that game. That was definitely the highlight, and I've just been so pumped for our next game on Monday. I've been watching so much World Cup. It's been great. Slowly getting ready for the school year as well with teaching. Kind of got an idea of the first couple of days of what we're going to be doing there. Still got over a month left until that even starts, but getting a little prepped and excited. But very excited for tomorrow to go celebrate the 4th of July. So yeah, without further ado, Cole, would you like to get us into our quote?
Yeah. Well, first I'm going to talk about my week since I haven't really
I
got a
thought you
chance
already
to talk
did
about
that.
my week yet. Not really, but that's okay. My week was great. Got to have the early shift for work, so I felt pretty good. This week actually we played some volleyball. This week I got to go. What did I do Wednesday? I did something Wednesday. I don't
USA
know.
game,
Wednesday
probably.
was a fun day. Whatever helped. Yes, Wednesday. Yeah, we drove all the way to Birmingham. Um, Drove all the way to Birmingham, and then realized there's a red cell of rain that was about to hit us. So we turned all the way back around and watched it in our house. And there was supposed to be like several thousands of people in this baseball stadium to watch this game. Um, and it was kind of a bum that we didn't get to watch it, but that's okay. So
Hey,
we
you
had a
got
good
another
time.
game to go do it now on
Yes,
Monday.
we do. I don't know if they'll host it there again, but we'll see. But yeah, my week's been great. With the patriotic spirit in mind, though, for our quote this week, I'm gonna let Nazario transition us over.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, pause, people. We don't know what just happened, but we're gonna run that back. That was
ladies and gentlemen, the quote of the week.
So when Evan and I did this, gosh, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did the same exact thing, and we were like, "Oh, Nazario, having Nazario is so helpful," and and apparently you still make mistakes too. We love it. We love the podcast for that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Um, but yeah, with the patriotic theme in style, we figured we'd go reach back into the some of the most famous members of American history. I think of who do you think of when you think of legends in American history? Don't say this one. I think of Thomas Jefferson. I think of John
Benjamin
Quincy Adams,
Franklin,
Benjamin Franklin, absolute stud.
Abraham
I
Lincoln.
yes. I mean, then the list goes on and on. I actually think of Marquis de Lafayette when he helps us win the battle in Yorktown and help seal the deal and kick the Brits out. Right? He kicked the Brits out. I remember I texted Michael in the middle of this week when England was playing and they were about to lose, and I said, "Darn the Brits." And then I said, "Send them back to go drink their cup of tea." And then I said, "Wait, never mind. They can't do that because we dumped it all out." That's right. We dumped out their tea.
Well,
But
one thing real
anyways,
quick with that, Cole, that we got to
okay,
talk
go
about.
for it.
Real quick, I got to throw it in. So tomorrow or Sunday night, the England will be playing Mexico. In Mexico. I can't tell you that I will 1000% be rooting for the Mexicans, but the country of England, okay, the game is kicking off at 1 a.m. England time. They have changed their laws so that the bars and pubs can stay open until 5 a.m. on that day. I mean, how
My
epic.
gosh. That's crazy. Dude, the European nations love to party. I've come to realize that. I've come to
Yes.
realize that.
Yes, and that's
Okay.
why America had to break away because of this great man. Didn't like partying. I'm just kidding. I'm throwing it out there, but
But one of the most notorious, one of the most famous American heroes in history, goes by the name George Washington. You may remember him. He is an absolute legend. He's an absolute stud. And for those of you who watch Liberty Kids, you know how awesome George Washington is. Nazario, did you watch Liberty Kids? We talked about this, right?
absolutely, yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. And for those of you who haven't, do yourself a favor, go sit down and at least listen to the intro, and then you'll be hooked. I mean, it's peak history.
Make sure you show it to your kids too if you're above the
Yes.
age of wanting to watch it yourself.
Yes, and it will get them hooked too, just as it did Nazario and I through our childhood. But without further ado, the quote is, "It is better to offer no excuse than a bad one." One more time. It is better to offer no excuse than a bad one. And I actually think Nazario is going to love this quote so much because a lot of the times it'll be like, let's see, we'll be starting something new and I'll be back on my workout grind, you know, and I'll be like, I just don't feel like working out today. Like I'm tired. I was doing studying, all this. And Nazario is just like, all I hear is excuses. All I hear is excuses. And they are bad excuses, like genuine. They're terrible excuses. Nothing should stop me from doing a workout, or nothing should stop me from going to adoration or going to mass. Those are bad excuses. And Nazar's like, all I hear, blah, 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 blah. And that's his psychologist in him because he knows that those are just me working my way around, actually just doing what I don't want to do. But yeah, Nazar, you can kick us off. Go for it, brother.
How long ago did you say that? I'm curious because you were a little glitchy there.
Oh, really? Like
Just a
20
hair. I'm just
seconds ago.
curious. You said okay. I
Okay,
didn't know
maybe it
how.
was like 10 seconds ago. It was a good bit.
Okay. Well, I heard you. Your face is a little glitchy, but we're gonna move on from that. Yeah, I do love this quote because, of course, I make excuses plenty of times in my life. I'm not excuseless, but I'm not a fan of excuses. And I do try to push and challenge both myself and other people when I hear excuses, and Cole knows about it. But it's all about, for me, it's all about internal discipline, internal motivation. And it's something that I think is one of the things that I've had that I was able to work my way into pushing onto Cole more than I think he began our college career with. And this is a learning example for y'all to see here, and how we
Mm-hmm.
can really help learn from this quote and develop our lives, is that we cannot rely on external things to motivate us. We can use them when necessary, and if we really, really need something. But if you want to make a consistent schedule, whether that be with working out, I mean, we talk about that a lot, whether that be with your consistent prayer life, consistent adoration, mass schedule, if you want to make anything consistent and you want to keep going and stay on course, you have to have that internal discipline. And it matters when, in terms of making excuses, which we'll go into further with this quote, I'm sure, but also matters like you're not going to be able to find external motivation all the time. It's not going to be there. That's one of the big reasons why external motivation it doesn't help with the consistency. And two is you end up realizing it's not that great. External motivation, it's just not that great. I mean, it can help you at times, but internal motivation, that true motivation to work within yourself, to push your own self to do something, not being pushed by something else, that that really helps. That really motivates and pushes you. And that could just be myself. I don't have like definitive research on this that I can point to, but in my experience, and when someone is internally motivated, it leads to something else. I'm thinking of multiple sports players. Like I just watched a piece on the U.S. striker Falarin Balogun, Flo Balogun, and it talked about his coach. Everyone wanted to go on vacation during the summer, but Flo wanted to just train and get better, and he saw that internal drive in him. And so, and you see this with anybody, when you go see coaches that really, or parents that really push their kids. Um, if the kid doesn't have that motivation, they're really not going to get better. They're not going to put in that own time, and that's why we're talking about all this. We're pushing down the line, but it all goes back to this quote: "It is better to offer no excuse than a bad one." It starts right there, because what are you doing? What are you saying from that little excuse making? You are saying, you are making it externally motivated. You're saying, I can't do it myself. I'm not self-disciplined. I'm not self-controlled and self-motivated to do this. I'm throwing it in some other direction. So it starts with that. It starts with the self internally. That's kind of a lot. Cole, I'm gonna try to flip this over to you. Trying to give you a good leapfrog, but I'm just go for your first thoughts. I know that was a lot there at the beginning.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes back to confession and self-justification, and the difference between the two of those. When we go to the confessional and we sit inside the confessional, you don't confess your sins to the priest and then go, "This is why I," or well, you. Some people will explain what circumstances let them fall into that. Um, but a lot of the times, the priest doesn't need to hear your self justification. Like when you're going in there, this is, I committed this sin, Father. Um, and a lot of the times, when we are making an excuse for something, we are self justifying something that we know is wrong. Um, for example, skipping the workout for that day. I know it's wrong. I know that it's healthy for my body to do a workout and that I'm more than capable of doing it. And I'm self justifying not doing it for some lame excuse. Same thing with the sin. If it's something that is pleasing to the human flesh, pleasing to the human mind, pleasing to the human body, or whatever it is, that is something that we drive for, but it's not something that is good for us. And so self justifying it, oh, this is good because it made things easier on me, or it was pleasing to me, or it was helpful for me, even though it's a bad thing. Making a bad excuse for it it does not justify. No sin can ever be justified by an excuse or anything like that. And even it's like little mistakes that, oh, am I still here? Even mistakes that you make, just generic mistakes, can come back down to, I remember I was on the farm one time a couple years back, and I let out a hay bale before I heard the beep on the baler. And when you let that out too early, it just is not wrapped. There is a just a mesh of hay in the middle of the field. And so what you have to do is you have to go out into the middle of the field and roll out the whole bale by hand and then rebale it. And that takes forever. It's like a 45-minute mistake. And my boss came over and he said, "What happened?" And this was like, I remember this specifically because it was one of those first times where I didn't immediately default to an excuse. I was just like, I have no excuse. I genuinely just wasn't paying attention. That was it. And that's what happened. And it became so much easier that way because it's ownership. You want to take ownership of your mistakes. You want to take ownership of your sins. You don't want to let them define you, but you can't let your excuses, those are external things that you're talking about. When you let the external things control you, you're letting the human things control you. And we kind of forget the fact and forget the idea of allowing God's divinity to fall into our human desires. Because without that shared experience of divinity and humanity in a thought, in an excuse, or whatever it is, then we aren't allowing God to actually enter into our human desires to discern whether it's a good desire or a bad desire. But yeah, I really like the way you went with that.
Well, I got a question for you.
Okay, hit me. What
So
we going?
we're talking about excuse making. When was the first excuse made in human history? What can you think of?
First excuse made in human. Oh, Adam and Eve.
Hmm. What do you remember exactly? Like what do you think? What happened? What did
Um,
they say?
what did they say? Well, the devil
Yeah, do
starts
you remember?
tempting them with. He starts tempting them with, "You can be like God."
Hmm.
Or God won't see it, I think is another one. Or I'm trying to think of in particular what you're probably looking for.
Yeah, no, I got
Um,
you. So what? So obviously, original sin happens. They eat the apple.
yeah.
Then they get called out, right? God comes to them, figures that, well, of course he knew, but
Oh,
you
he
know,
blames it on the woman. That's the first thing that he does.
exactly. Exactly. So Adam blames it on the woman. I think and then Eve blames it on the devil, saying I think he was sly and cunning, something along those lines. So we see from the very beginning excuse making, um the evils of it, the damage that it does. Because think about it. The all loving God, the all merciful God, we don't know for sure, of course, what God would have done in this situation. Like we never know what God exactly is going to do because he is omnipotent, all those things. But he comes to them. He doesn't immediately throw them out. He knows exactly what they did. Of course he does. He knew they were going to do it before he even created them. He knew they were going to do this. But instead of immediately throwing them out of the garden, he still asks them and talks to them about it. In my mind, when I'm thinking about this right now, I've never thought about this ever, actually, I don't think. But now that we're talking about the excuse making, if they were willing and had the self awareness and the humility, because we can talk about humility within this as well, the humility to say, God, I admit I messed up here. I allowed the devil to coax me. I fell into that weakness. I wasn't strong enough against him. I didn't listen to your word and what you told me, and I committed this failure. Had Adam and Eve done this, I don't know this for certain, of course, but I have to imagine that in that moment, God would have had some sort of mercy on them, and shown them some sort of love, because He didn't immediately throw them out. He didn't immediately throw them out until after this, until after they made this excuse, and and weren't taking responsibilities for their actions. Cole, I'm just gonna let you respond to that. What do you think of the first excuse making and then the response of God to that had it been different?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, it boils back down to humility and pride. It always comes back to humility and pride. And I always say that humility is just the realization of personhood, and pride is the mistaking idea that you can be divine. And so the original sin, our original fallout with God, was the idea that we could be like God, which
Mhm.
is absolutely false. It's just not possible. You cannot be like God. And Adam fell into that. And so for the first thing to that God gave him the opportunity to do was to show his personhood, right? Like you're saying, he's asking, what happened? Why are you hiding from me? Why aren't you, what aren't you telling me? And then he starts making excuses. And instead of humbling himself to the Father, showing his personhood, showing his flaws, because humans can make mistakes, instead of showing that, he just allows the devil's coaxing to control that and lie to the Father. And he chooses, oh, this lie is going to be better for me than actually telling the truth. So he chooses divinity, right? And that's not possible. Again, so not only does he choose divinity once when he tries to eat the apple, he chooses divinity again when he lies. And both of those things are failures of the human mind and the human body and the human soul. It's part of it stains us. It stained us forever. We like have original sin. Everybody is born with original sin, and it's something that we have to face the consequences for. Because what's also important to notice is that no excuse is ever going to stop you from getting the consequences of a bad action. You will always every action comes with a consequence. Some are stronger, some are less strong. For example, like you're talking about God's mercy on them if they say they did humble themselves to the Father and they did, say, I did do this. I think God would still have probably, again, this is coming from our human brains.
Hypothetical. Yeah.
Yeah, coming from both of our pea-sized brains, right? That God would probably have shown them a different level of mercy because God still showed them an abundant level of mercy by creating us and allowing us to still live on this earth in a nature that it's possible to get to heaven when he sent his son. So he showed us mercy still, even in our biggest failures. But no excuse is ever going to justify that sin. Nothing. And so Adam's default victim scenario, oh, she made me do it, or she gave it to me, like all of those things, that's a terrible excuse. That is it. Like as far as excuses go, that one's probably peak. That one probably hits the top. As far as it's just lame, it's just not a good excuse at all. And so my thing is, when you have to start reaching for an excuse and you have to start thinking about one, that's how you should know it's a bad excuse. A good excuse, one that's actually legitimate, should be one that should come to your mind instantly, and it should be obvious. Okay, in my instance, when I was baling hay, say I was in a different scenario. I let it out early. It was still unwrapped, but there was a beeping sound that came from my phone, and it made me think that there was a beeper telling me to send out the bale. Okay, that's a legitimate excuse. That actually is a legitimate excuse. It is something that I thought I was still doing the right thing because I thought I was still doing the work, and it was the beeping sound of the baler. Where in this instance, Adam knew. He knew that the fruit was wrong. The woman gave it to him, but he knew the fruit that was wrong, and he still ate it. That is actually the definition of sin, is to have full knowledge, will, and intellect of what you're doing. God informed them of what they were going to do if they ate it. He had the will and he chose to eat it, and then he had the knowledge that it was wrong. In all three, that is the definition of a sin. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about excuse making. Now we're going to talk a little bit about repentance. So what self awareness, what self what humility we need to approach repentance, and what we need, because we can't just be like, oh, like I only just want to do this because I don't want to go to hell, which is a part of it, of course. So we realize that our sins are bad and that we realize what they deserve. But a means of a good confession, we still want to make sure that we feel truly sorry for our sins, which is also known as contrition.
Yep.
And then we want to actually confess these sins and feel we notice and we realize that they are bad, but also realizing what aspect of them too. Because sometimes it can be, okay, I messed up on an action. It was an impulsive thing. And this is, I realize my fallen human nature. Second, we could be our intentions, that we knew going into that we had that bad intention. So to look at, okay, I feel sorry because yes, I know I did a bad action, but I've done bad actions before. This was different. I had bad intentions. I had bad thoughts going into it, or it could just be I'm having bad thoughts in general. So when we talk about excuse making, We're trying to take the blame off of ourselves. We want to reverse that. And obviously, as humans, from the very get go, as we talked about, we like to make excuses because we don't want to admit our failures. That is pride right there. Okay, so we want to reverse this. Obviously, this matters in our relationship to God and with sin, but this matters in our relationship with each other. Cole, do you remember the three relationships, the three communions that were broken by original sin?
The three, say that again.
The three relationships that were broken by original sin.
Oh man, I know what
So
you're
it
talking
was
about.
the relationship with each other, the relationship between each other, Cole and I, our relationship with God, of course, by failing against Him, and our relationship with ourselves. Okay, so this creates what it creates, maybe not the right word, but pride comes from this, right? That we have through this excuse making, right? We're being prideful, and um, we can't take what's the word? Take responsibility for our actions. Okay, and so this affected all three of those relationships. This original sin. So we're showing pride in that we can't admit to ourselves that we messed up. So we're trying to make ourselves feel better instead of having that relationship with ourselves, knowing ourselves, being like, okay, I can admit that. We're affecting our relationship with each other because we are not humble enough to admit our failures to other people. We try to blame it on something else instead of being humble and being understanding towards our fellow man and saying, "Hey, I messed up against you." Like you're talking about with your boss, Cole. You had to really sit there, and it's one thing that we deal with our parents. We'll deal with our bosses, like, "Hey, boss," like, "Hey, mom," "Hey, dad." Like I messed up.
Mhm.
There is a lot of
Mhm.
humility. There's a lot of self like we feel a lot of embarrassment from that. And then of course with God, it's more that we kind of project humanity onto that more than actually understand the reality of it. It's same thing with Adam and Eve. They knew God from the very get go. They knew God better than we will ever know God during our life on earth because they were with Him in the garden. They knew His love and mercy. He literally created them like they were the first human beings ever created. They knew Him better than we ever could. And yet they still felt that embarrassment and they weren't able to humble themselves in front of the Lord, even though they knew His incredible love and mercy. That is not us thinking about God wrong. It's something that we've projected onto Him of how human beings kind of react to when other people fail. We're scared of the human reaction, that human reaction of people getting mad at you, people laughing at you for embarrassing you. But that's all human. God doesn't actually react like that. God acts in perfect love, mercy, and justice. And so that's something we have to remember when we mess up. And if we turn back to God, He's going to show us perfect love, mercy, and justice. Um, and so when we remember those three relationships that have broken, it all boils down to how we handle our pride and turn that into humility. So Cole, are you good, bro?
I'm
Oh,
here. Can
did
you hear
you?
me?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Just making sure I'm still here.
Yeah. So that was a little bit long, everybody, but at the end of the day, what we want you to remember from this quote is humility. Excuse making is a part of pride. Admitting your mistakes, taking responsibility, that is responsibility, humility, kind of rhymes. So, yeah. So we're gonna move on to next section of the pod.
Ladies and gentlemen, the practical prayer practice of the week.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I realized that we through our conversation, I didn't expect our conversation to honestly get like that when I first looked at the quote. But we could have had a practical prayer practice that goes along a little bit more with that. And we didn't really talk about the fact that it was George Washington making this quote. We kind of really turned it into our own little thing. But for our practical prayer practice, we're gonna go more on the 4th of July theme. Okay. So obviously we live in the United States. 4th of July is about the United States. You may live anywhere in the world. We don't know where you're coming to us from. We will guess you're from the United States, but if you're not, that's awesome too. Like comment, let us know where you're from. That would be awesome to know about. But for our practical prayer practice, for our 4th of July special, we're going to do praying for our country and praying for its safety. Pray for our leaders that they would lead well. They would lead in a godly way, in the way that they are called to. We know that leaders are called to a higher standard than anyone really, because they have been given more gifts, more responsibilities, and people look up to them and try to follow them. So we need to pray for them as well. So you can pray for, our political leaders, our spiritual leaders, bishops, the priests in America, all those leading the Catholic Church and leading all of Christianity. So our practical prayer practice, you can pray for the country, the safety, its leaders. And also, if you want a specific prayer, what do I say? What am I looking for? There is a litany for the United States. There's a litany for America. Just look up litany for the U.S. Catholic, litany for America Catholic. So you can go pray one of those litanies as well. So cool little practical prayer practice. And to remember to humble yourself in this moment, as we're going to hit on humility as we close out this pod. We can make all the excuses we want about our country, the way it's run, decisions that are made, but take that responsibility. Be humble to realize I can do something about this. I can help my country. How can I help my country? I can pray for my country. So that is what we're calling on you guys and ourselves to do this 4th of July, and keep that going. Always be praying for our country and for our world. That's what we can do. That's how we can change the world. We can pray and we can take action in that way. So with that, we are going to transition to someone who really took action and impacted our country.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Shepherd of the Week.
Yeah, so we had a couple of different shepherd ideas. Obviously, the 4th of July gives a lot of variety of what we could do with American heroes of the past, different people that have impacted this great country. So I sent a list to Cole, and Cole picked out this one, a beautiful, beautiful shepherd of the week that is going to be, I'm excited for Cole to introduce and talk about. So Cole, take it away with our shepherd of the week.
So this is probably one of the most famous Catholic women saints in history, who comes from the U.S. So funny enough, for those of you who didn't know that, that's what she's famous for. Her name is Saint Frances Xavier Cabrini, also known as Mother Cabrini, which is what a lot of people know her as. But she was born in Italy and arrived in the U.S. in the year 1889, I think, to serve immigrants, specifically Italian immigrants, I believe. So her lifelong work was to provide spiritual care, physical care, and just overall service to the immigrants coming from her country. And she served in this life for a very, very long time. She eventually began to continue to move on and help even more immigrants, not just Italian immigrants, but immigrants as a whole. And over time, she became a really well-known person among the United States, and everybody adored her because of her service. She helped the poor, the sick, whoever it is. She eventually helped to go on with schools for children who don't have the opportunity to go to schools. She helped in hospitals. She helped orphanages. You name it, he's done just about all of it. What's cool about her is she's actually the patron saint of the U.S., if you didn't know that. But yeah, I think it's just a really nice reminder to have people like this to show you what the true definition of service actually is, to show what it actually means to serve not only yourself, but your country and your fellow children of God. But yeah.
So we had a podcast, I don't even remember how long ago this was, but it was called Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. And we talked about how we built on others. We are a result of what others have done before us. And our priest on this past Sunday was basically doing like a forward homily on the 4th of July, and saying how this church would not be here without missionaries coming to the United States, coming to this specific area. He talked about the different saints that we had seen around the country, and he was talking about California has a bunch of different cities named after saints: Santa Clara, San Francisco, San Diego. I don't know what language that is, Cole. Do you know what language is that? Is that Spanish? I'm guessing.
What are you saying?
Like San Diego, Santa Clara, San Francisco, like those all. I don't know what language it is, but that means like Saint Francisco, like Saint Diego. That's what that's coming from. And so he's talking about how we had all these incredible missionaries that came to our country. And although, America is in a little bit of a trying time with its religious following, I still believe that America at its roots is a Christian nation, and it's up to us now. Those missionaries that came in the past, whether it be Mother Cabrini, whether it be all the different missionaries that have come to the U.S., it's up to us to continue that forward. We have all those opportunities because of them, and it's now it's our turn to try to give back and to revert America back to its Christian roots. But to go back on Mother Cabrini, she has a movie. Well, I mean, the movie was made about her, released in 2024 by Angel Studios. If you haven't seen it, it's a very good movie to go watch with your family. A good family movie on missionary work. And Mother Cabrini actually did not want to come to the United States. She had asked the Pope many a times if she could go east. She wanted to go to China very badly. I don't know exactly why she wanted to go to China, but she wanted to do missionary work in China. And the priest kept rejecting her, and the Pope kept rejecting her. And eventually the Pope was like, well, you know what you can do? You can go west. And she was like, what? Yeah. She's like, you can go to China, but you got to go westward. So you got to start in the United States. And so she does, and she goes and starts in the US. And we have this great story of how she helped the Italian immigrants there in New York City. And then eventually her network and her order, I don't know if she has a direct order, but basically the Mother Cabrini sisters, they eventually expand so much. They have so many missionary houses that they do end up reaching China. I don't know if she specifically was ever able back to go to China, but her work eventually led to missionary work in China, which is kind of exciting. And it shows the incredible workings of God, because she wanted to go to China so bad, but she was directed in another area first that eventually led to China, which is where she wanted to go. So just an incredible story. And she is the first saint who did her work in America, as far as I researched, that was canonized. So she was Italian, but she did a lot of her work in America. And so she was the first quote unquote American saint to be canonized. So that is pretty incredible. So on this day, we asked Saint Mother Cabrini to pray for us, pray for our country. And so if y'all want to, ask her for her intercession as well. So a great American podcast, Cole. Are you there?
You kind of glitched out there for a second on my screen.
I was just saying the great American podcast, Cole.
Yes, very American podcast. We are trying to embody patriotism this episode for you guys. With that being said, we'll move on to our final thoughts here. I think overall the just generic message out of this one, for us and you guys and just the conversation as a whole is leaning towards excuses and really pondering your excuses. Like, is it something that's worth making the excuse over? Is my excuse actually something that is legitimate? Like, does it actually prevent me from doing something? Did this excuse actually bear any sort of consequence or any sort of value on how I was able to perform the action? That's the difference between a good excuse and a bad excuse. So really spend time and think about that before you speak. That's a big thing, is like having good awareness of your tongue and how it connects to your brain. So control over both of those things is very important. But yeah,
absolutely. And for me, it's all about responsibility and humility. We have to have the humility to take responsibility. Humility to take responsibility. Forward little mantra to remember. And I'm gonna go back to the patriotism thing. So we as Americans, I don't think we're known as, the most humble people in the world, to say the least. But we do take responsibility in terms of we take the reins, we take hold. Back 250 years ago, we didn't just let the Brits, control our country, control our land. We took hold, we took that responsibility, and we broke off. We became independent. And you have the freedoms that you do as long as you live in America, that you do because of what happened 250 years ago and in the past, like what has happened these past 250 years. It was a lot of taking responsibility. And it was a lot of humility to the country, whether that be soldiers, whether that be female workers, nurses, all these different things, all these different first responders that we've had, but ultimately like our soldiers, what they did in war to keep our freedom. And if you don't understand, and if you're a person that's our age or a little bit older who's never really experienced like true like war, true American like patriotism, like we have to remember we are so blessed beyond comparison. We get to live in a country that literally almost has zero results, zero impact of war on our homeland. We are so lucky that no war outside of the Revolutionary War 250 years ago and the Civil War, which was about 160 years ago, we haven't really had wars on American soil that have truly impacted our homeland. And so when you think about the freedoms that you have, it goes back to that. Like Cole and I's friend, were talking yesterday. We played Bosnia and Herzegovina in the World Cup. They are 50-year-old people that remember like Civil War, like war atrocities that happened in their country. They're like 50 years old. They were our age 30 years ago when this happened in the 90s. Okay. Like war atrocities being committed in their country. And this is just one example, but this happens all over the world. We are so incredibly blessed that we don't have to deal with that. We don't have to deal with that trauma of having war on our homeland. And it's all because of the sacrifices that have been made. It's all because of the humility of human beings that fought for this country. And so whatever you want to think about politics, about our leaders, whatever that your beliefs may be on any of that, remember what the troops that did for you so that you could have unimaginable freedom. People have come over to the United States for this World Cup from all over the country, and they are seeing what the freedom of America looks like, and they are overwhelmed with how incredible it is compared to their countries. And it's still in 2026, the realities of the world. We have incredible freedom, and to remember that and to celebrate the 250 years of this incredible country, the greatest country on earth, the greatest country that's ever existed. Seriously, you don't even understand. But when they say land of the free, it's true. And when they say home of the brave, that's also true. That is the reason that we are here and that we have this incredible freedom. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for this incredible podcast, for the opportunity that we have to create this podcast. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. Cole, are you good over there? I can tell you're falling asleep on me.
I'm great.
So don't forget about our merch. We should have made 4th of July merch, Cole. We need that would have been really cool. But don't forget about our t-shirts, our wristbands that we have. Don't forget to reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Also, pray for our boy Evan. He's going to be getting married next weekend. We'll be heading down to Tuscaloosa.
Yes, sir.
Maybe filming a podcast together. We'll probably make that happen for y'all for next week. Maybe 2 episodes, who knows? But we'll be together next weekend for Evan's wedding. So please pray for him. Please pray for his beautiful bride, Caroline, future Caroline Abear. Caroline Sims still, though, has a few more days. No, not official yet. But pray for our boy out there for his wedding to go well, and for his marriage in general. But thank you all for tuning in for another episode of the Lost Sheep Podcast. I'm Nazario Pangallo. He is Cole Bissett. And God bless.